My name is Tague, and I've lived in and around New Orleans since I was born. With some hiatuses other places, but born here now and spent only a couple of years outside of New Orleans after Katrina.
So you did stay away for a couple of years after Katrina?
There's 7 days on a rooftop. I needed like 2 years to
Yeah.
process that for a while.
Yeah, and we don't have to talk about any of that, that's up to you, but what I really am interested in is your perceptions of art in New Orleans pre and post Katrina, and in particular your work process, how you think about creating art. A lot of it's political, which I know is looking at, so I'd be interested in hearing more your take on that. What inspires you and why?
New Orleans pre and post. New Orleans before Katrina, it was really art for the sake of art for being in New Orleans. So there wasn't a lot of venues, so I curated a lot, so I had to find warehouses and spaces and a couple of really willing galleries, like Barrister's Gallery was one of them, Big Top Gallery, a few others. It wasn't a place where people came to see art at all. It was where people came for Jazz Fest, for Mardi Gras, and the cliched things, beignets and whatever other stuff. After Katrina, it was a massively huge deal. For one of the biggest curators in the world, Dan Cameron, came here and decided to move here. And it's not as though he was new to the city. He's been in and out of the city for 30 plus years, so he knew it very well. It wasn't like he was some opportunist, like, look what I can do. Like, he really cared, and like genuinely cares and still cares. And wanted to do something amazing here with the arts, as everything else was in shambles and trying to rebuild, so was the arts, like anything else. And he took that upon himself. And instead of New Orleans becoming a place where artists were incubated and then left, now it's a destination for artists to move to. Because even with gripes about renting things, it's still much cheaper than any other art place in the country, New York or LA, Chicago. Like, this place is way cheaper. I think when you get here, though, people have this kind of fast-paced idea of being in New York or somewhere else, and they move here and they're like, yeah, I'll crush it. And then like a month later, like in the bar talking about something they're gonna make, and like, I get to it later, So it's a big easy for a reason. You kind of get into that lifestyle sometimes. But there's a lot more art happening now by far. And it gets more attention. There's actually collectors buying it, so artists can make a living on it. It's like anywhere else. Some artists can, most can't, because there's way too many artists. Not that that's a problem, there's just not enough collectors and people buying it is the problem. Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, just to clarify, I have no problem with many artists. Everyone should be an artist. Well, half two should be artists, half should be collectors. That would be a nice mix. But there is a lot more attention, and like I said, people moving here for the arts, which is a pretty, I've never noticed that phenomenon before Katrina at all. And now there's lots of co-ops and art centers and blogs and writers and organizations that help artists. The Joan Mitchell moved to New Orleans, like, that's amazing. Who would imagine that would ever have happened before Katrina? So yeah, really great. And before trying to curate and finding people to gather up artists that were here or in grad schools and local artists to have shows, now there's co-ops and things. Me and a friend of mine, Tony Campbell, started the first co-op on St. Claude, the Good Children Gallery. And since then, now there's 5 or 6 or 7 more, and some go away and some come back. But there's a good stable of 5 or 6. So that's tons of opportunity for artists that weren't here before. And Marigny was always a really artsy area with artists, musicians, and chefs and things, but now it's just really blown up.
We were just down there last night.
It's fantastic, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your work. I mean, I've seen some of it, but I'd like other people to hear.
Very angry. No. My work gets perceived that way sometimes. Some of my, probably most notably the portraits of dollar bills, folding dollar bills to say different messages, like we need a revolution, or holy shit, or the end is near, which I shouldn't have folded that because what happened. So some of it's kind of prophetic, and I'm kind of, I have superpowers that way. So I should have folded more optimistic stuff. But I think a lot of it can be taken either way. Like a lot of people have, I hate to say there's this side of, two sides of politics. Hopefully there's a million sides of politics, which I would love to believe. We're just not really, government doesn't want us to be geared that way, kind of polarized. But I think a lot of the messages and dollar bills have had people who have, polar opposite views of politics, who see the work and like, yeah, you're right. And I'm like, wait a minute, it can be taken two ways? I don't like this. But then, yeah, I came to terms with that. It's fine. It's about, it's about having this dialogue through art, about having a conversation, and and I don't need it to be a soapbox where I'm telling people what to do, because then I could just run for politics or something and have lobbyists tell me what to do, and I'll tell them what to do, so it'll be fine. I don't know. And a new series that I'm working on, because, I don't know, it seemed like there was some irony to making political work, and there was some semblance of hope. Now it's really hard for me to make political work now, because I make it, I'm like, I'm gonna cry if I make this. I can't make this. And now it's a good time that even non-artists are really making visual representations, whether it's in protest signs or writing it on their car window. Like, people have strong opinions, so I don't know if I need to make art that has strong opinions anymore. Everyone does. So, oddly enough, I've kind of taking myself out of that and dealing in the same conceptual way of bending and twisting and turning and spending hours to manipulate something that you know very well and to see it a different way. Except this time I'm using like sticks and Legos and things like that. I did rearrange two lawn signs for a certain politician. So I cut them up and rearranged it and says something else now. Yeah, I don't like Trump. I'll just go ahead and say that. It says Nicht mein Führer. out of some Trump signs, I cut them up and rearranged them. It's pretty great. So it's hard to abandon completely. And the ones I do, the political work I do make is definitely maybe more focused and not so nebulous, like Bedtime for Democracy or Master of Puppets. Two fantastic punk and rock albums, by the way. So, I have to bring in that's where I get my politics from anyway, from skateboarding in the 80s. The bands are great, the graphics are great, like skulls and dragons, but neon green and checkerboards, like best of both worlds. It's pretty great. So I like to write in that line where it's like skulls, but you gotta have some, bright pink in there too. Like, it's all. I love that they just kind of made this hard street culture, but kept the like surfer colors too in the 80s. It was so fantastic. It's like my favorite type of graphics and art. And then the music, you had, Dead Kennedys and Bad Brains and Black Flags. You had a lot of politics hit me at once. I'm like, you mean my grandfather wasn't right and Reagan is not so great? And then like investigating it, like, oh, wait a minute. Politics, these guys are just saying stuff. They don't mean what they say. And it's pretty eye-opening when you're just 13 or 14. You're like, holy moly, I can't believe what people tell me now. What's the world coming to? I have to make my own decisions. So yeah, luckily I went that route. I was glad I did. So, I could have went into sports, but, decided, skateboarding was more fun. I like those kids more, smoke a little pot, whatever, have some. I guess there's that side of it too.
So, tell me a little bit about, you made a reference earlier to people moving here and sort of experiencing the Big Easy. That's a sort of way of describing New Orleans, but how do you describe New Orleans, and what do you mean by that phrase?
Especially in the summer when the heat index can hit 110, 114, you're not going anywhere. Any excuse to not go to work, to stay in an AC, or to have drinks, like that's gonna happen. I don't know why the city is that way. It's rich food, I don't know. Rich food, heat, drinks are in every corner. People are fun. It's you know, it's when you're in the studio. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but and it's not as though it's like epidemic, like nobody does anything. They're in hammocks all day, which isn't terrible. I can get down with that. But you're in the studio and things are tough. You're like, you have a friend come over, check it out. Next thing you know, you're like having a beer, and you're like, well, let's just go down the street to the wine shop or to the, to the bar and sit outside and have a drink, and then your day's done. But those conversations do fuel other things. It's just a matter of staying on top of it and then getting to the studio. But I've never. Sometimes I push it to the deadline. Sometimes too much.
You said the people are interesting.
Oh, yeah.
New Orleans interesting.
I've never seen people in New Orleans ever. I don't know. People are just converse more, talk to each other. They do what they want. I think a lot of times people move here from somewhere because they can't be who they are, where they're from. And in New Orleans, there's no judgment. Well, at least in the Marinean Quarter, I don't know. It could get weird other places, I don't know. But there's not much judgment there, which that's, in my artsy New Orleans part, it's, I don't know, do what you want. It's like, on any given day, I mean, you may see a guy in a thong discoing in the street just because. And people aren't like, get on the street, you weirdo. They're like, oh, hey, like, move around slowly, like, oh, It's pretty fantastic. I mean, guys can go on Frenchman and be on the corner just randomly and like banging a drum, and then a horn will come, and then something else will come, and then there's like 100 people blocking the whole street watching it, and the cars just wait, like roll on the window, like, well, listen to it as well. In most cities that doesn't happen. You call the police. I don't know what would happen. Like SWAT team comes out. I'm not sure what happens, but I've never seen it anywhere else. So I'm assuming they wouldn't allow it. I don't know. It seems a pretty, in its easiness, I think part of that is the idea of the Big Easy is not just like not do anything, but I think it is about this idea of acceptance. And that's the other flip side people complain about, as more people are moving in, most people who move in, the large majority come here for that reason, but there is a small percentage who moves, and usually they're pretty influential because they have money. Don't really like the way some things work. Like a bar having music till 4 a.m. Why'd you move next to it? I've once heard someone say, so whenever they dispute these issues of like sound ordinance or whatever, it's public. Someone stood up and said, I didn't realize I moved to a 24-hour jazz city. Why did you think you moved? If it wasn't for that, you visited here, you're like, this is great. Oh, I didn't realize it was every day. You're like, man, it's every day. So that gets, and those kind of situations always are so much louder than the 98% that people just come because they want to be part of it and want to be, a New Orleanian, like it's, they embrace the culture. It's unfortunate when those few people get the loudest voices, just because they make so much noise about things. There's people loitering, like, so what? There's also 10 bars on your block. They're going from one to the other. That's fine. It's fine. That's very annoying.
Tell me a little bit about the neighborhoods in New Orleans, because having grown up here, I would assume you know about the different neighborhoods, and that's also something that has come up in other interviews. And I know when I lived here, I lived in Gentilly Terrace, and I was really happy with my neighborhood and proud of it. Mm-hmm. What is your how would you describe the sort of neighborhood communities that happen in New Orleans?
I don't know. They seem quite different to me. Like Uptown and Marigny are like different worlds. And Mid-City has like more of like a suburban feel to it. I mean, there's really, and there's no defined areas. Like, am I in Marigny or am I in Treme? Am I in Central City? Like, it's just this nebulous circles. Like, you're not really sure which one you're in sometimes. Like, tons of people, like, once you cross, like, Clio, like, I'm uptown. Like, I don't consider uptown. I think that's downtown. But I don't know. I think even the definitions of what neighborhoods are very mixed. I don't know. I mean, some definitely get more attention than others, for sure.
Describe your neighborhood more, like, who are the people in it? How many bars are on the block?
Oh, jeez. I don't know how many bars. A lot.
What is the architecture? I mean, that's another thing that people...
A lot of churches are shutting down, so there's more bars than churches for once. Usually it's 50-50, you know? You gotta have your balance. What was the last word?
I was just curious about your neighborhood in general.
Pretty great. It's a lot of great people.
I mean, we were down there last
Even the
night,
curmudgeons are great in that neighborhood. They're like, stupid kids, like, have fun. Like, all right, nice. I don't know, people are very great. I'm pretty fortunate to have like amazing neighbors. I mean, every once in a while I hear like horror stories, but not too often and not too bad. But I have really great neighbors. I'm pretty good with that. I couldn't not deal with the dominoes on the corner. That's probably not my favorite. I have like a stadium light in my backyard constantly. I don't know how to describe. It's too vast to describe. I don't know. Very artsy, I'll say that. Very creative. Even the non-artists, someone non-artist just gone to work casually, like, even the way they dress is like art. Like, everything is just different there. I don't know. It's hard to pinpoint, but I'm glad I can't. I think the joy of it is that I can't put it into a box. I think that's the thing I like about Bywater, Marigny area the most.
And where did you grow up in? You said in or around New Orleans. Did you grow up in New Orleans?
Born in Algiers, then moved to Harvey for most of my life, and then moved to Gretna, where vast majority of my family's from, even to my grandfather's relatives are even from Gretna. And then moved to Mid-City first during undergrad, and then was there till Katrina, and then when I was living in New York for a year and a half or so, then South France, Santa Fe, Oakland, and then after South France, I moved back to New Orleans because it was really similar. And then moved to Marigny, and then just bounced around different places, and then eventually bought a house, which is odd. I can't afford a house in that neighborhood now. Like I bought it at a time, and I had to fix it up a lot, and it wasn't damaged, Katrina. It's just a 140-year-old house. It had like electricity was like blinking and on the fritz, but that's just every house I've lived in ever was like that. It wasn't as though it was damaged by anything, which is pretty fortunate that area because the house I had in Mid-City is not even there. It fell. Yeah, that much water for that long, I guess just. Depleted a house that was on its way out anyway, probably. But yeah, that was strange times. But yeah, I love living at the Marigny. Pretty great.
So I usually ask everybody what they would want people to know about New Orleans who have never been here or may never come here. Are there any specific things you would want people to know?
If you're an asshole, stay home. We can't change that here, but if you like to have fun, we can help you with that. I embrace it all, do it all. There's no shortage of amazing music venues. You want bounce music, jazz, heavy metal, we have it all. There's a venue for it anytime you're here, any time of the year. And often, I guess it's easier for people to come during Jazz Fest or Mardi Gras, but you see like nothing of the city. None of it. Your whole time is spent at a music festival and you actually saw none of New Orleans, which is very strange. If I was telling a tourist to come any other time. Any other time. Maybe this summer it could be brutal if you're not used to that. October is the best time. Weather's perfect. But I always say people should come for a week, not during a festival, and see the music that's here all the time. Eat the food that's here all the time. See the art that's here, like a mix of local, international, national artists. I think you get the least of New Orleans when you come during these crazy times. Yeah, it's not always we have trucks rolling around throwing trash at people as they're like yelling frantically drunk for it. it's super strange, but it's not the norm. That is a bit accessible, but yeah. I love New Orleans for what it is. I mean, I love the festivals too, and they're great of just, you know. And it is fun to see. I've never seen them. I've just seen them a billion times. So I'm a little bit jaded, but I still do like it. But I do think people would get a lot more out of it if they came. It'd be like going to New York to go just to see art, but just go see the Armory and leave. Like you just saw a taste of galleries everywhere else, so you didn't really see New York for that side. Because like New York is like New Orleans as well. And so many layers to it. Yeah.
So you mentioned bounce music, and this is something I just heard about yesterday. I'm woefully ignorant. So can you describe it? Is it a music that you follow? I don't know anything about it, honestly, other than what you looked up. So
My wife's a much bigger bounce fan. It's very repetitive. It's very energetic. There's almost never a time you'll go to a bounce show and there's someone not dancing. You might, I don't know, maybe you'll get thrown out. I'm not sure how that works, but everybody's moving. It's super. I like bounce shows more than personally. I can't put just like a bounce track in and listen to it driving. I'd like run off the road or something. But I love bounce shows. The whole experience is something you've never seen before. How do you describe bounce music? A lot of rhythm, a lot of shaking, a lot of ass. I don't know, lots of tight clothes. It's really like a festival of I don't know, rhythm and bodies. It's impressive. It's amazing. Yeah. Even like in the audience, it just becomes infectious. Like maybe not doing it so well, but if 100 people not doing it so well, still pretty amazing. Yeah. I'm not sure how to describe that either. That's a tough one. Yeah.
So I was going to give these guys an opportunity to ask you questions as well.
Yeah, whatever you got.
You mentioned a lot of punk bands, Dead Kennedys, Black Flag. Do you think that there's any room for that, or do you think there's any bands like that right now that are kind of getting a similar message across about kind of saying, you know, screw you to the establishment in the way that maybe Dead Kennedys did?
I think so. It's just not as raw as that anymore. It's too polished and poppy for me. Like I need that kind of squealy sound as well, and like, you know, that hard drum track through it. I think, and I'm sure there is. It's just for me, I need the grittiness of the music along with like that really strange Jello Biafra or Keith Moore's voice. It's not melodious, but it's still infectious. Cerebral Ballsy, that's one. They're enjoyable. They sound like skate rock, old skate rock. I don't know. Just out, and then whenever bands come through here that sound like that, I'm like, oh great. Oh no, that's just Agent Orange again. Like it's those bands back. They go to a bar called Siberia a lot. They play there a lot.
Is that a punk bar?
Yeah. Punk and metal and bounce and during the day there's like singer-songwriters, so and there's burlesque and comedy. So they're really really honing down a really tight niche there of everything, but they started off as a metal bar. But you can expand the definition, I mean, of metal and bounce, kind of like droning bass beats are kind of similar, I don't know, in a very strange way. And oddly enough, the crowds can sometimes be confusing about which band's playing. You'll just see a sea of black t-shirts and you're like, oh, it must be some metal band. Like, no, that's singer-songwriter. Or like, it's just so like the crowds are, even people's tastes are so diverse. Like, oh, I saw Goat Whore last night and Katie Red's playing tomorrow. I'll see you there, high five, woo. Like, it's amazing, I don't know.
You were talking about like the people that have the louder voices and like these kind of festivals that are more touristy and stuff. Do you think that they're like overtaking the culture that was here, or
The festivals? Well, I've been here for 40 years, and Mardi Gras has been here since, I don't know when that first started. I'm sure it's something racist, I don't know.
But like more of the, I guess, the new people that are coming in.
The people, well, no one, I mean, people don't move here for Mardi Gras. That's mostly just tourists will come in. That's always happened. That's not a big deal. Oftentimes they're very strange and they're kind of demanding, like they're at an amusement park and want to be served. Like like walking around like drunk, like get out of my way, like screw you, it's not a red light. Like, oh, okay, you're weird. Some people do think, so a lot of people get some drinks in them and during like Mardi Gras, and Jazz Fest is confined to a park, and that's not a rowdy crowd. They're actually music lovers. It's totally different. But people coming in just because they want to get smashed and drink like weird drinks, like I want to drink out of a cup that's shaped like an alien, and I want it to be 1,000 proof. Like that's the annoyingness of that crowd, which it's easy enough to avoid. But I don't know. That's not, and again, it's not the majority, but when you got 3 guys like constantly catcalling and being like insane and on the verge of like passing out or getting in a fight, like that's just annoying.
So, were you talking more about the people who move here to live, but who have such strong voices? What was your question?
Oh yeah, they're annoying. I wish they'd go back to where they came from. Yeah, sure.
Was there
It would make it better. It would make it enjoyable.
We've heard that there are concerns that like they're sort of overtaking the culture and the voices of the people that work here.
I don't know. I think Brad Pitt did that kind of already in Lower Ninth. Didn't he do that? I'm pretty sure 88% of the city was underwater, but according to almost everyone in the general public, they think only the Lower Ninth Ward was flooded and everything else was fine. There's way bigger splashes of land in Gentilly and New Orleans East that they're not going to get rebuilt. No one's talking about it because it's not economically viable for people that want to move. No one wants to move to cool New Orleans East. Like, I don't know, it could be. Put some money into it. I don't know. That seems very, to me, I don't know how else to think about it, but very racially divided. I don't know. Because Lower Ninth got rebuilt, and it's a different makeup of people there now, for sure.
So the people who were there did not come back to the homes like the Brad Pitt homes, those sold?
Some did, and a lot of those houses are now rotting because they were trying to use too much materials of like modern materials that were like, and great like for the, better for environment, but they were way too expensive to build, like hundreds of thousands of dollars to build these houses. And they can't withstand 365 days of humidity. So they're like rotting and like bubbling and falling apart. So they have to be rebuilt. And they were way more expensive, outrageously more expensive.
Than typical wood frame that would, be able to strengthen.
And then, some of the houses look like they're upside down or on their side, and a glass thing over here and some weird slidey thing. I'm like, nonsense. And then if you build 10 of them, so then you have 10 people living in super houses, and now you have all these people around like, well, why didn't I win the lottery? How come I didn't get that house? I think it seems very divisive and strange to me. And also no other projects got accepted. Like Help USA wanted to build a 86 family complex that had like schooling and everything built in. It's based on the Le Corbusier models, and they've built them in several other cities. And they said, no, it would interfere with what we're doing here. So our lovely mayor, Ray Nagin, who's in prison now, thank God, she's a dirtbag, said no, it would interfere with what we have going on. Basically, it would interfere with our celebrity status we have going on with Sean Penn trolling with a shotgun in a canoe and Brad Pitt building upside down houses. I don't know.
Did you have any questions?
I think I was a little interested in hearing more about how you kind of came about becoming an artist in general. You travel all over the world, because I don't even know how much you drew from living in New Orleans, because you've been everywhere, it sounds like, or a lot of places.
I don't know. I was really, in school, I was good at everything. It just didn't mean I liked it, which my mom didn't understand. Like, well, you have A's in math, you should be an engineer. I'm like, I have A's in science, but I don't want to be a brain surgeon either. Like, I So I went to school, started off in engineering, and it lasted about a semester and a half, and I took some art classes, and then immediately switched, like, that's what I want to be.
Do you have like a specific, I know you talked a little bit, but do you have a specific medium you stick to? Or
Started off as a painter, and then kind of went into sculpture and curating, and now a lot of photography. I make installations. Like I made a 16-foot golden pyramid that had 14-foot photographs of folded bills. That's Chapel of the Almighty Dollar, and a little tiny door you had to crawl into, and it had like a chandelier and the AC and carpet once you got in. But it was, mostly right now it seems to be a lot of photography, but it changes with the idea. So I like to have a lot of things in my arsenal. So it's not as though I have the idea and I have to figure out how I can form it into this medium. Like whatever is the most appropriate to get that idea. So
Did you mention?
it's like a multi-sided pendulum. It just keeps it's like those games with the balls, except they're coming from every direction and just slathering around. That's my brain. It's good times. It's a ruckus up there.
Did you mention a children's co-op? Or,
Good Children is the name of it, because St. Claude Street used to be called Avenue of Good Children.
okay.
Why would you change that name? I have no idea. That's ridiculous. That's like the most amazing street name ever. Like, let's do away with that. St. Claude it is. Like, ugh. Parishioners.
Do you interact with?
Should I have said that in Loyola? I said parishioners like that?
You can, sure.
Yeah, they would like agree, like, oh yeah, so Avenue of Good Children, way better, yeah.
Do you work with younger artists now?
What do you mean?
I'm just curious if there are artists in the community that you work with that are like up and coming, or if, the co-op that you're describing.
Yeah, artists all the time. I like to come to the studio, we'll drink some wine and talk about art. Sometimes they like what I say, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they hate what I say and they call me back a week later and like, yeah, I think you were right about that, man. I don't know. Or sometimes like, yeah, you're stupid, I don't know. But I mean, yeah, people, if they invite me to the studio, I'm gonna tell them what I think. And I also tell them I'm not a wizard, I'm not a, I'm just giving you my opinion. It means nothing or it means everything. I don't know. It doesn't, I'm not gonna, I think people ask you for an opinion because they want to know what you actually think. And if I think something's not so good or what's something I think you can approve or, I'm not just gonna say, oh, that sucks, that's great. Like, it's gotta be, it's gotta be critical. It has to be constructive. But sometimes artists have such like thin skin. It's like, ooh, we might be in a wrong field. It's like, wait till you have to give your first talk to 50 people, see what happens then. Ugh. Yeah.
Well, is there anything else that you wanted to say that we haven't covered, or any questions you have for us?
I don't know.
That's fine.
I could talk for days. Yeah. But some things I don't know if it's something you talk about because it might be something I just take for granted. I don't.
Yeah.
There's so many things that I just think are normal that aren't. Like being in Seattle, drinking a beer on a sidewalk, and a cop just figures I was wasted. I'm like, no, I just walked out of there. And they're like, you can't have that. He was gonna starting to harass me. And he's like, give me your license. And I hold it to him. And he says, New Orleans. He goes, oh God. Throw it out and leave. Go in the bar with it or something. Like you can't be outside. I'm like, oh yeah. Like you forget that. That just seems odd. Like you have a drink in a cup, you walk out of a place with it. So what? It's just so weird that people chase you out. It's happened to me several times. I don't know.
Yeah. It was quite a awakening going to Central New York from here.
Yeah, I was told, I was in a bar called the Turkey Nest, and they had a New Orleans special there where they put the beer in a styrofoam, and they put a coffee lid on it, so you just kind of blow on it and then drink your beer out of it. It's pretty great. And it was odd though, is I didn't realize what happens with draft and styrofoam. So basically they poured 4 beers to get it to fill. It just keeps foaming up. I'm like, can you put it in one of those coffee paper cups maybe? It's so sad watching all that beer wasted. No. Yeah, that was pretty great.
That's clever though. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Except I was trying to give him some helpful criticism, like if you get those wax paper cups, you won't lose all that beer. Don't stop though. And for whatever reason, it's not like they had a normal size coffee cup. It was like this big. Like who drinks, it's like, I don't know, half gallon of coffee. Who drinks half gallons of beer? I mean, it's, at one time. Usually you just, smaller doses and lots of them. That was strange. And dressed. When I would say I want a sandwich dressed, they were like, you want to do what to it? I was like, just put whatever you want on it, just put stuff on it. Like tomato, like, yeah, lettuce, yeah, mayonnaise, yeah, just whatever. Like dressed, you mean you just like lettuce, tomato, mayonnaise, like that? We just call that a sandwich here. I'm like, well, I don't know, all right. Call it dressed. And the coffee was weird too. It was like, I get coffee, it's like, you want it regular? I'm like, no, I want it with cream and sugar, that's regular. I'm like, all right. Regular, I would think that's a black coffee, but not so much in New York. Well, not at the bodega in my neighborhood, so it could be different, I don't know. So then whenever I'd come in after a while, he's like, regular coffee, sandwich dressed? I'm like, you know it, all right. It was great that he was like in on his little secret, like, that's my guy. Yeah.
So speaking of food, are there particular restaurants, areas
That's
that
this
I
question.
know, where Forrest and I are like, ooh, food. Yeah, so places that you recommend that you really like.
Some of my favorite places, Pesh on Julia Street, it's really good. Marisa is excellent. If you're in a bar, late-ish and things are closed, Mimi's in the Marini upstairs is ridiculous. They're like voted like 10 years in a row, like best late night food. I don't know of many places that you could be there at 1 in the morning having beers and you could eat like, manchego mushroom toast or snails or, Kahlua smoked salmon. Like, I don't know, usually that doesn't happen. It's like fries or chicken fingers. Like, yeah, this is like insane. And it's still like 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning, depending on if it's a weekday or not. Yeah, those 3 are great. Siberia has an amazing burger. And if you like Polish or Czech food, they have a Polish kitchen there.
So where is Siberia?
It's Elysian Fields and St. Claude. It's just a couple of blocks off of Elysian Fields on St. Claude.
All right, yeah, we're staying at UNO Track Room, so.
Yeah, so pierogies yeah. So you're there, yeah. If you're ever hankering for any of that, oh my goodness, yeah. It's incredible. It's pretty great watching people come in through this kind of metal bar that has like skulls and things and it's painted black. And they kind of walk in like this. Like Polish food, they're like, yeah, right back, yeah. And then when you walk back to this kind of restaurant area and it just mingles. I like that bar for its kind of melting, wavy aspects of it. It's very strange. Yeah.